Booze and Barbecue.
Hello and welcome to another Booze, Booze and Barbecue. This is Andy. I am flying solo today. Everybody's taking a little time off for the holiday, so I figured I'd knock this one out myself, but that's alright. You guys are coming along for the ride. Hope we're finding everyone well. It's right before Thanksgiving. We're literally releasing this the day before Thanksgiving, and we have already done our practice Thanksgiving. No photos. I know. I've heard it before, and I'll hear it again. I'm so bad about taking photos. I do apologize, you guys, but let me just say, it was delicious. We had a 17-pound turkey. It was rocking the marinade that Corianne makes every single year and continues to perfect, and it was spectacular. Her brine. Let's do a little recap. It's apple cider, not apple juice. Apple cider. It's very important to do the cider, not the juice, because you get those additional flavors from the spices that are in the cider. And then, of course, black peppercorns, cinnamon sticks, and cloves, and all the good stuff. Everything that makes pumpkin spice, except for it's being put in with apple, so it makes apple cider. I never really thought about that before, but that's a good way of looking at it. All of those spices, they're sort of a holiday spice. Not really a pumpkin spice or an apple cider spice. They're just a holiday spice. I keep thinking to myself, we need to come up with some kind of a rub that employs pumpkin spice. I think that it would actually be pretty good because it's not going to be pumpkin flavored. It's just going to be pumpkin spice flavored. And you know, the things like the cardamom and the cinnamon, those tend to find themselves in Mediterranean or even Latin food. And I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work well in something that's a bit more of a savory rub instead of a sweet rub. I don't know. Think about it. Give me your comments. Let me know, because I think that would be a hit. It might be something we need to try here in the near future. And of course, today's episode is being brought to you by Bulleit Bourbon Frontier Whiskey Tattoo Edition. This special edition bottle was drawn by Jason Kundle of Portland, Oregon, one of our own locals. So thank you for that, Jason, and cheers to you. Great job on the bottle. It's very cool. All right, we have our first caller on the line. Who is this?
Oh, this is Derry O'Connor with Try This Dish Radio.
Derry, how are you doing?
I'm just trying to recuperate from the World Food Championship.
Yeah, it was quite an ordeal.
What an ordeal. And you and I both were sous chefs, so that was fun.
That was a ton of fun. Remind me how you did.
Well, I was with Sandy Shepard in the chili division, and we actually ended up 8th out of the top 10. We were number 8, which is kind of cool. So we got to do the initial round and then go to the top 10 round. And then I was also with Roberto Rose from Vinalegro in California in the World Chefs division. And I was with him in the first round, and so that was really fun, too. I had a great time meeting both of these chefs and working with them. It was fabulous.
I loved Roberto. He is such a good dude.
I know he invited us all over there, so we should go.
I am down with that.
Love that guy. I'm
trying to remember. Yes, I think he's got 2 restaurants, if I'm not mistaken, and he's a bit of a car guy too, which I appreciate.
Yes, he is. I think the chef de cuisine and partial owner of Vinalegro, and also the owner of Byron Inn Cafe. So yeah, I would just definitely take a road trip there, possibly.
Oh, definitely.
At some point, yeah, he has fabulous. He does something at Vinalegro where they do, it's like chefs, whatever he wants to cook for that evening, which I've always really loved that philosophy for smaller type restaurants where it's whatever the chef's cooking. That's what you're having.
Kind of a chef's choice, but in a good way.
And you guys cooked with Suzanne Duplantis, which is awesome, from Makeover My Leftovers.
Oh, yeah. She was incredible. What a good chef to have. And very impressed with her skills and just everything. I mean, she didn't really leave anything wanting, and I was very impressed with the way she operated.
Yes, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to spend as much time with everyone that I wanted to. You know, when you're sous chefing, it's difficult, and there's a lot of people that will go around and do kind of like freelance sous chefing for several different competitions, and I can tell you right now, it's exhausting because you know how hot it was the first 3 days we were there. was boiling hot, and then it was about 50 degrees cooler by Friday. So it was definitely an experience. I've never done sous chefing before, but I enjoyed it. But there were some things I didn't get to talk with as much people as I wanted to, but overall it was a great experience.
Well, you got
really
to follow,
great food.
You got to follow around the Wonky Donkeys for a while, though, right?
Oh yeah. Tracy and Nick Latham are from the UK, and they're the team Wonky Donkeys. They've been over here, I think, every single year since the World Food Championships has been around, which is about 7 years, I believe.
Wow.
And they actually drove to Texas and stayed with me 2 nights here in Central Texas before they flew out of Houston. So yeah, that was really fun. They came out here. It was my birthday, and we all cooked steaks, and we had a great time. And I've actually seen them twice in the UK. I've been to the UK 4 times in the last 3 years. So good people, good people. And a lot of people don't realize how big barbecue and chili are in the UK as far as food sport.
Oh, yes. A huge part of our following is actually from the UK. Right. A surprising amount of our following is from the UK. It caught me off guard when I started seeing those numbers, because as a podcast, we see the analytics, right? And you being in radio, right, it's kind of the same way. And just to see our numbers continue to climb in the UK and in Australia, I was like, oh wow, we've really touched on something. And every time one of our 3BQ shows was primarily about barbecue, the numbers just shot up internationally. There's a real hunger for the barbecue sport elsewhere in the globe. I'm really shocked.
Right, and a lot of people don't even realize this, and I didn't until I met a couple of people, that the south of France is like Texas. It's like people in cowboy hats, and this is the south of France, right? There's a huge movement there, or just barbecue. It's like the country. It isn't like Paris, France. Ooh la la! It's like the south of France is apparently very country, very rural, lots of barbecuing and farming and things like that. I'm like, we got to go to the south of France.
Yeehaw meets je ne sais quoi.
Yes, and that too.
I love it. I got to go check that out now. That's super funny. Well, hey, Derry, thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate it.
You got it. And we'll be having you guys back on Try This Dish Radio here soon enough, as soon as I can get a hold of the host. He ghosts me occasionally.
He ghosts us all, but he never ghosts the radio station. Try This Dish Radio can be found at facebook.com/Try This Dish Radio. You keep your podcast out there. You keep the radio station going at Sky Network Radio.
Skynet Radio. Yeah, and we're on an internet radio system, but Try This Dish Radio is on there too. And if you have a podcast you want to get up there, you can just shoot us an email at trythisdishradio@gmail.com.
I love it. Hey, thanks so much, Derry.
Welcome. We'll talk soon.
Very cool. Always like talking to her. Very cool people. Go and check that out, Try This Dish Radio. We are part of the Sky Network Radio family, and you can hear our show on the Sky Network Radio. We'll have links to that posted at the bottom of this episode on boostboostbbq.com. We'll also post up links to it on our Facebook page, Boost Boost BBQ, and our sister show, of course, Pardon My Fork. And speaking of Pardon My Fork, and speaking of the World Food Championships, is if you have not heard enough about what happened there, you guys, it was astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. The food was ridiculous. The atmosphere was incredible. The weather was all over the place, but it was still such a good time. I don't know what it is. You'd think a dude my size would be saying, oh, I don't want to be in the heat and the humidity, but I loved it. I'm solar powered, man. I just soak it up as hard and as fast as I can. And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible being down there for that event. Mike McLeod and his team, they put on a great event. I was very impressed. And hopefully you guys can be checking out some of the footage that's coming out through Dick Clark Productions. And I'm pretty sure they're contracting with the Food Network, but don't quote me on that. We'll see, what happens with all of that and where it comes out. The wife pointed out something very interesting, though, while we were down there. That was my long-winded way of getting back around to this, but she realized at a certain point that we had not seen any Priuses or Prii, depending on how you subscribe, when we were driving around down there. The entire time we were there, we hadn't seen any hybrids. And as soon as she said that, I was like, you know what? I think you're right. And so I started trying to pay attention and see if I could spot any hybrids as we were driving past them. And she was right, man. I mean, there were just no hybrids down there at all. Not even really that many pickups. It was maybe half pickups, half cars, a lot of sports cars, obviously a lot of convertibles. I mean, let's be realistic. You're on the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, there are going to be a lot of sports cars and a lot of convertibles. Considering how many sports cars there was a huge police presence. That was the other thing I noticed about that whole area, is I felt like I was playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City all over again, because the cops were just relentless. They were everywhere. And again, I love our armed forces. I love our police services. They're very important to a community, and I think we need to uphold them. But that doesn't change the fact that when there are a lot of police cars that you're seeing all over the place and constantly, it's a little bit disconcerting. I mean, I'll just throw that out there. And especially when your wife decides that she wants to rent a 2016 Nissan Titan V8 as your rental car. And so we drove around in this V8 powered 4-door pickup the entire weekend, which, I mean, I'll admit it was pretty fun. We didn't end up throwing anything in the back of the truck. We just used it as a car, but at least we had a rental car that could get out of its own way. I mean, I've been in rental cars before. I had a Nissan Versa when I went to North Carolina last year on business, and that thing would not get out of its own way. That car was horrible. And I mean, this is coming from a guy that really appreciates his underpowered front-wheel drive vehicles, okay? And you need to understand, when you are setting up a corner just the right way and you know that this thing is going to power slide all the way through and you're ready and you're set for it, and you start into that corner and then it just falls completely on its face because all of the traction control nannies kicked in at the same time. It is so disappointing and so disheartening. And this is in a car that has less than not enough horsepower. I mean, it is borderline dangerous how much horsepower, how little horsepower this vehicle has. And it won't even give me a power slide. I was so disappointed. So driving that big truck, I'll admit, it was a nice reprieve. I will tell you though, I did a couple of 0 to 60 blasts in that truck, and I really don't think it's as quick as my EcoBoost. I'm just being real honest, and of course I'm going to get a lot of haters talking to me about, oh, you're just saying that because, you know, you own the truck, and V6 will never beat a V8, and there's no replacement for displacement, and blah, blah, blah. And I understand all of that. I'm just saying my EcoBoost truck with a boost controller at 14 or 15 pounds felt faster than this V8 Titan. Now, that is not to say anything negative about the sound of the Titan. The sound was amazing. Run that thing up to 6,500 RPM. Oh, thing of beauty. I loved the noise. Loved it. Probably got atrocious fuel economy. I never even checked, but just the sound of that motor was so worth it. So worth it. Kind of makes me wonder when we're going to start seeing more of those engines being swapped into, I don't know, drift cars, that sort of thing. Because those V8s, they seem like a really good motor, and I don't really know a whole lot about them, but I'm making an educated assumption that they aren't just going to fall completely apart with a little bit of boost, if you know what I mean. You know, supercharger kit, turbo kit, something like that. I work with an engineer that has a Nissan Titan. It's a little bit older. I want to say it's a 0809, something like that. Anyways, he has the supercharger kit on it, and that thing makes, I don't know, 600 wheel horsepower, I think he was telling me, something just ridiculous like that. He's a car guy. We always have a lot of fun talking while I'm at work, and his truck is, it's truly a beast. And I'm going to have to get some photos. It's not a whole lot to look at on the outside, but man, if I can get him to do a couple of dig pulls, you are going to be shocked and amazed and impressed at how quick that old truck is. It's very impressive. It makes me really feel like there is a rise of the pickup coming. Sometimes I do wonder if I should have gone that route instead, the Coyote V8. the 5.0 V8, because that is an incredible engine. I mean, it really just is amazing. The amount of power that it puts down and the smooth power delivery and its ability to handle boost. I mean, that is a tough engine, and it's hard not to be impressed with the level of engineering that you have. The only reason why I wouldn't say that the Coyote motor is poised to take over the place of like the LS engine is because of the size of it. I mean, one of the things that the LS has going for it, besides the extreme durability and the very high flowing heads and all of those very good things, don't be wrong, all very good things. But the Coyote being a double overhead cam, all aluminum V8, there are more capabilities there. But I think the thing holding it back from being a more swappable engine like the LS is the width of it. It is a huge engine. Huge. It's very wide. I want to say that it's a 90-degree V8, and you have the dual overhead cam heads on that motor, and it is just a beast. Just a beast. It's big, wide. Think a cross between a Subaru engine and an LS. I mean, it's just wide. There's just nothing you can do about it. It's a very wide motor. And while I do want to see more people swapping that engine in, because I do think that it's an incredible piece of engineering, just the sheer size of the motor, I think, is what's going to hold a lot of people back. Because when you look at that LS, there's so many places that thing can go. You can put an LS into a Miata, and a Miata has a very small engine bay. I don't think we'll be seeing a Coyote motor swapped Miata anytime soon. And this isn't much of a segue, because I'm not very good at segues. But speaking of LS motor swaps, I don't know if you guys saw the F3 wreck that happened. It was horrible, terrible, awful. Having said that, I will be linking the footage underneath of this episode on boostboostbbq.com. I will give you fair warning. I mean, there's no blood and guts or anything like that, but it's a pretty crazy wreck, man. Pretty crazy wreck. If you don't know, F3 is like the baby F1. The cars are not supposed to be quite as fast, but I mean, it's an open wheel race car, so it's a little bit of tomato. They're both very, very fast, and the driver, Sophia Florsch, was involved in this horrible accident and endured an 11-hour surgery on her back, trying to get everything put back together. But it appears that she is on the mend, and her first words were, "I want to get back out there and race." And I say good on her, because after a wreck like that, I mean, that is something that could ruin your career. Seriously, could ruin your career. You know, Niki Lauda, famously, after he had his terrible accident, just wanted to get right back into the car and drive again. And he had a terrible wreck in the rain, and they should not have been racing in such poor conditions. And that's really what caused his accident. When the next rain came and he was driving, he just pulled his car off. He knew that that was not something that he wanted to mess around with. And I actually applaud him for that. When something like this happens, and especially like this, I mean, this is a terrible accident. Ms. Florsch fractured her spine, 11 hours in surgery. I can't even begin to imagine what an ordeal that is and what that puts a person through. But to be able to have one of the first things you say to your fans is, "I want to get right back in the driver's seat." I mean, that's just incredible. That is a real testament to her spirit, a testament to her fortitude, wanting to get back in the driver's seat and knowing that it was going to take some time and take some work, but that's still the direction that she wanted to head. There we go. We've got another caller on the line. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay.
Who is this? What's your name?
My name is Devin.
This is a good friend of mine, Devin. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. What's going on tonight?
Just hanging out and having fun. Devin is a huge car guy. Known him since the good old days. I still have the mental images of you in that recliner in the bed of your pickup watching the street races in downtown Salem.
It's the best view in the house.
That was a time that's going to be burned into my brain forever. Don't get to see Devin too often these days, but he is a tried and true, thoroughbred car guy. A little bit of a Nissan car person, but a Toyota truck person. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. I would definitely keep both of those brands at the top of the list.
Oh, yes. Because I remember your truck that you had for a while. I want to say that was an 89 or a 90. Am I wrong?
The white one?
Mm-hmm.
That was a 94.
Oh, a 94. Was that a 22R or was that the 3-liter?
It was the 3-liter.
3-liter. Why do they call it a 3-liter?
Because it's got head issues. Just poor design, but that's the way it goes. Can't make them all right.
You know, that's interesting coming from Toyota, because the Nissan 3-liters and the 3.3 liters, the VG series, those were an incredible motor. Really incredible. Very tough. You know, guys are putting 500 horsepower, 600 horsepower through a stock block, single overhead cam version. We're not talking about the dual overhead cam twin turbo out of the 300ZX, although that is a fantastic motor. But I'm talking about the early original pickup truck 3-liter V6s. Those things were absolute monsters. And Toyota just didn't quite seem to hit that mark on their first V6.
It was a swing and a miss, that's for sure.
But I'll tell you what, that 2.7 liter 4-cylinder that they made, and I'm trying to remember what the nomenclature was on it. It was like a 2RZ or something like that. I remember those were very, very stout engines, because I had a customer who built land speed record cars, and he used that 3.7 liter 4-cylinder, and he literally told me they would just take one out of the junkyard, put this giant turbo on it, it'd run 480 horsepower all year long, and then at the end of the year, they would just trade it in as a core and get a new one, whether it was blowing or not.
It's wild. I actually had one in my Gold Tacoma, and it was great. I beat the out of it, and it worked well.
What do you think about an engine that size? Because I know that Chevy is going to be coming out with their 2.7 liter 4-cylinder turbo, and they're not exactly calling it competition for the EcoBoost engine, but it feels like it's kind of the direction that they're trying to head. You know what I mean? Have you read anything about that?
I haven't seen anything about that. I've seen a lot of the, I guess it's not mid-size, but it's the standard size pickups getting switched over to diesels, though. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, the Colorados with the 4-cylinder diesels. And
yeah.
I'm down with that, except that the price tag on those, they start at like $40,000.
They're outrageous. It's hard to pick between a new one of those or the new F-150 is going to have a diesel motor in them, too.
I don't think it'd be that difficult to decide, would it?
I guess it's kind of a branding thing, depending on where you come from.
I don't know, man. The Colorados are so small inside. It feels like you're driving a truck more than you're driving a car more than you're driving a truck. It feels tiny. I don't know how else to describe it.
You have a new F-150. You're pretty new.
Yeah, I only talk about that like every episode, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing about it. Yeah, but it has been a very good truck for me so far. I'm very happy with it. It's just one of those things where I'm always kind of looking out, going, all right, what's going to be the next thing? Like, I'm pretty sure my next one is going to have to be a diesel, because the wife and I are looking at getting a trailer, like a travel trailer, and being able to drive around and pull anything I want is going to be important to me. The EcoBoost motor, don't get me wrong, it's got 13,000 pounds of towing capacity. But what kind of fuel economy are you going to get when you're towing something like that?
Yeah. Probably not very good, I'd imagine. If you turn them up, they just keeps going down.
I'm going to disagree with you there, because I do have a manual boost controller on mine. And, oh, no, you're right. It does suffer. Never mind. I think it has more to do with the fact that I'm just in the gas more.
Reason for ticket, wanted to hear exhaust spool.
Now, I'll tell you something. Those EcoBoost engines, they sound a little more like a vacuum cleaner than they do a 350Z. So the sound of them is not the greatest, if I'm being honest. But it's still been a very, very good truck for me. I don't think you've ridden it yet, have you?
I have not. I do need to. That's for sure.
That's because every time you come over, we're barbecuing.
Well, it's hard to barbecue and drive at the same time.
Well, that's because of the drinking, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do one without the other.
Exactly. Speaking of which, you got plans for Thanksgiving, I assume?
I do. I'm going to go visit some family.
Nice. Anything going on the grill, or are you just eating the dry turkey?
One's going to be dry and one's going to be on a Traeger.
Ooh, now you're talking.
So it should be pretty good.
Nice. Heck yeah. Nothing's wrong with the Traeger at all. I'm very okay with that. As a matter of fact, I was just having a discussion earlier today with one of the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association folks, and we were talking about how the electric grills or the pellet grills, a lot of people feel like they should have, I don't know, maybe their own category, if you know what I mean. But yeah. They don't, and the reason why they don't is because they don't actually do that well against the other stuff. I mean, they do fine, but it's not overwhelming. It's not like a Traeger or a pellet grill in general is winning every single time. It's a wide mix. It's a wide array. There are people on gas. There are people on strictly wood-fired. And it's not like the electric is winning 100% of the time. And so it doesn't seem like it's a distinct advantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I never thought about it that way. But if it was one way or the other way, then it would probably end up with its own category. But it's not, so it makes sense. Right,
exactly. And that's even with Traeger coming out with all of their new grills, and not just Traeger the brand, but Joe Traeger and his son Brian have recently joined the Pit Boss team. I don't know if you read about that or not, but I'm very curious to see what happens with that merger.
I have not heard about that. I know originally they were made out in Mount Angel, which isn't far from where I work.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Traegers out there. More so the families than the grills, of course, but
of course.
But I haven't heard about that, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very surprising, in my opinion. I was surprised to hear that. I've got a feeling that maybe, and don't quote me on any of this. This is purely speculation, but I'm thinking that probably Joe Traeger was thinking, you know what? I want to get back into the pellet grills, but we sold the name. What do we do? How do we do it? And this ended up being kind of a perfect marriage between the two. I don't know if you've seen the new lineup of Pit Boss grills, but man, they are really stepping their game up hard.
Very nice. It's good to see good competition.
Mm-hmm.
It just leads to better innovation.
How does the saying go? Rising tides lift all ships, right?
That's right.
When are you going to be able to come over here and have a little more barbecue?
I'm thinking probably next month sometime.
Okay. We'll make that happen. A little something right before Christmas.
All right.
Yeah, I like that. We'll call it Friendsgiving 2.0. We just did a Friendsgiving over at a friend of ours' house, Andrea, amazing realtor in the Corvallis area, and just all around good people. She hosted a Friendsgiving at her house and has done for the last 4 years, and we always like contributing to that. I always bring the smoked turkey, and this year was not any different. It did not disappoint, let me tell you, buddy. Hopefully we'll have a bag in the freezer for you to try a little bit later on, okay?
Oh, I'm down.
I knew you would be. All right, well, hey, thanks so much for calling in, and we will catch you in a little bit, okay?
Yeah, sounds great. You have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, bye.
Yeah, I love Devin. He's good people. We got to do a show with him sometime. He's an OG in the drift community. He's been around for a long time, did a lot of photography when Pat's Acres actually first started coming around. And speaking of Pat's Acres, there's an event coming up in December running through February. It's going to be their street series competition. And 3BQ is going to be bringing you exclusive access into that event. So make sure that you are staying tuned for that. Devin and I have been friends for a long time. I typically only get to see him these days when I'm cooking barbecue at the house, but we'll have him over once in a while. He's a good guy to talk to. Lots of insights, lots of car knowledge, and he's going to be a lot of fun to talk to on the show. I look forward to talking more drifting with him. I don't drift myself personally. It's not that I don't want to or couldn't necessarily. It's just it's an expensive hobby, if you know what I mean. All of these hobbies are expensive, but this one is just something that I haven't quite reached for yet. But I don't feel like it's out of my wheelhouse. I feel like it's something that could be somewhere down the road, depending on what kind of vehicle that I get. As soon as I sold my all-wheel drive Protege, I was torn. I had a moment where I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this money? I could buy another car. I could do another project. Part of the reason why I started the podcast is because I was kind of at that crossroads. I thought, okay, I have a little bit of money. It's play money. I'm very careful to keep my hobby money separated from my regular money. And so I definitely had a moment where I was just going, okay, what exactly do I want to do with this? And while cars are very much my passion, it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I love being in a car. My happy place is racing a vehicle. I also wanted to see if my happy place was behind a microphone. And this thing just sort of took on a mind of its own. We now have thousands of downloads and many, many listeners, and we're kind of just spreading across the globe. Much to my surprise, if I'm being totally honest. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good road, and I think it's going to open a lot of doors for us. I can't really wait to see where the show is going to lead, and I can't wait to start doing a little more car-related stuff. A lot of the stuff we've been doing lately is food-related, and I certainly don't have anything against barbecue. That is a fact. I have nothing against barbecue or food sport in general. Our Pardon My Fork show is one of my favorite things right now. It is just my absolute favorite. Not only do I get to spend time with my lovely wife, but I get to taste these amazing foods and cook these amazing foods and hang out with these amazing food people. It's really astonishing the doors that have opened up because of Pardon My Fork. And of course, I need to credit my wife very heavily for all of that. But I would like to take the 3BQ show back in a more car-related direction as we head into the new year. This drift series is a good start to that. And, in Oregon, car stuff dies down in the winter. There's just nothing else you can do about it. It was 28 degrees outside this morning. I had to throw water on my windshield just so that I could drive away. It was all iced up, and that's just the way it goes with the change of the seasons. And I understand that. But as spring comes back on, March, April, May, and car stuff starts getting more ramped up, I'm really looking forward to integrate more of the car stuff into the show. And I really can't wait for that. We had this incredible talk with Zach Morgan from PRE Racing a couple of weeks ago. You can go back and check that episode out. It's just a couple underneath this one on boostboostbbq.com. And talking to Zach about his passion was just incredible. And I was very impressed. Very impressed. He's very knowledgeable. As a racer, he's very accomplished. As a builder, he's very accomplished. And the projects that they have got going on in that shop are just astonishing. I was going back through the photos, looking at the shelves that they have and looking at the cars on the lifts and the cars laying around here and there. The 300ZX with over 500 wheel horsepower. That is an amazing piece of machinery. And I am just so impressed with what those guys are doing. And it comes back around to an appreciation that I have for all things mechanical. And so I really can't wait to start incorporating some of that. I really hope that you guys help me with that direction, and make sure that you are commenting or shouting out or giving me an email or any way that you feel necessary to reach out to me talking about those things. Of course, Pardon My Fork is going to stay very food oriented. And so I want you to continue to look forward to the food and the food sport being found on our show. And looks like we've got another caller on the line. Caller, who is this?
Stephen Powell, Houston, Texas.
Stephen Powell,
Smokers, Texas.
Oh, one of my favorite people. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. Good to hear your voice. Thought I'd call in and see what y'all got going on today.
Great to talk to you, my friend. What is happening? What are you working on right now?
I got a Texas Longhorns little UDS I'm working on. I got a member of my group coming in to pick it up. Matter of fact, I think I see him on the video camera pulling up.
There you go. Now you're talking.
Yeah, these things are so hot, I'm telling you what. They're winning competitions all over the country. Everybody wants one.
Oh, and you've built some amazing ones, too. You built some for the World Food Championships, if I recall. Yes?
That is correct.
I'm pretty sure I saw your drums. What team did you make those for?
Well, that was for Brian Parker. Not sure what he calls his team name, but he come down and he had me build a couple of them, and as a twin pair, and he sure is so proud of them. He posts pictures all the time of everything he's cooking on them. Says they don't vary, maybe even 5 degrees either way. All cook long.
Man, that is incredible. And those were black ones, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, I know. I saw those. I may have some photos of them. I'll try to find them and pull them up and slap them together. Real quick, I know you got to get going, Steve, but what makes Ugly Drums Texas the absolute best ugly drum smoker site to join?
Well, I think it's that, you don't get a lot of the BS you get on other groups. Is everybody on the site is either a builder or somebody definitely looking to build, and they've learned so much, the ones that have built, that they want to give back, and they just chime in and they come in and want to help everybody that the same way they were in a bind. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to go, who to turn to. And you go on some of these sites and you ask a simple question and you get on, do it this way, don't do it that way. 50-50 here, 50-50 there, and you never get a solid answer. And you get lost. And we don't let that happen over here. We get solid members over here like Rick, who just walked in. I was telling you about, kind of pick up this smoker. He's constantly on there and helping, sharing information, and that's what we do. Just we want to see everybody should have at least one, but what we're looking for is 2 UDSs in their backyard.
I love it. And the Southern hospitality that you show folks, that is just what has propelled you so much further ahead of all these other groups. I'm very impressed with what you're able to do and what your group is able to do. And that reminds me, you are a service member, are you not?
That is correct.
My man,
States Army.
I love it. Thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate it. And tell us one more time where people can find you and what you're doing.
Ugly Drum Smokers Texas. It's a Facebook group, and we specialize in helping others build or find a builder in your area. It will even help you find a drum. We got a list of drums across the country. A lot of people can't find a decent food grade drum. We even got a list to help you find that as well. And we got a YouTube channel, which is Ugly Drum Smokers Texas as well, and Instagram. Be happy for y'all to follow us and join up, and we can help you find the kit and find a barrel and build your own UDS over a weekend. Makes a nice weekend project.
I love it. You guys all need to go out and check that out. Steve, thanks so much for calling me, man. It's always great to talk to you, and I can't wait to do it again.
Hey, Andy, good to hear your voice. I'll talk to you soon.
You take care, brother.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Boy, that guy is absolutely incredible. I really hope that you guys go out and follow Ugly Drum Smokers Texas. He is an amazing person. He's doing amazing things, and his builds of these drums are just incredible. They're not like anything you've ever seen, trust me. And the beauty about an Ugly Drum Smoker is that they're just so efficient. They're not the thickest gauge metal on the planet. They're like a 14 gauge or a 16 gauge, something like that. But the fact that all of the heat is traveling up and they're just so fuel efficient. It is shocking to me when you see these guys that have these coal baskets and they really don't even have that much charcoal in them. You know, they do a mixture of like charcoal and wood chips, whatever wood chip flavors they want. And they'll just light 3 or 4 on the top and then they'll close the whole drum up. That thing will come up to temperature in no time at all. In an absolute snap. And a 14-inch deep basket will burn for like 14 hours. And so there are guys that are doing briskets low and slow on their drums from start to finish without ever cracking the top. It is just absolutely incredible. And if you want to see the best, you have to go over to Ugly Drum Smokers, Texas. They're definitely doing the best builds. And Stephen Powell, he is the king of the ugly drums. I mean, it is just amazing. The things that he's doing, the custom accessories that he's having built for these drums, it's nothing short of fascinating. And so I definitely recommend that you go and you check that out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. They have really cool videos, lots of how-tos, lots of really cool people helping you figure out exactly what you're going to do with your drum and how to build it the right way. So definitely make sure you go and check them out. We get a couple of calls up here. Let's see here. Caller, you're on the air. Who do we got?
This is Dakota.
Dakota Snow, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Hey, you can go out and check out Dakota Snow's episode on boostboostbbq.com. It's 3 or 4 episodes below this one, but it's all about automotive sales marketing. Very, very cool stuff. Make sure that you're going and checking that out. Dakota, what is going on, my friend? How are things? How is life? I'm sure you haven't really caught too much of the episode so far since you just called in, but we've been talking about drifting. We've been talking about Ugly Drum Smokers. We've been talking about that horrific accident at the Macau Grand Prix. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings?
I was watching that race live, actually, and it was definitely one of the freakiest accidents I have ever seen happen. I covered it immediately on my website, timeattackhack.com, and it was easily one of the scariest looking accidents I've ever seen, and I think it's absolutely a miracle that everybody came out of that relatively unharmed. I mean, Sophia broke her C7 vertebra, but it has already undergone surgery and seems to be okay, and both photographers are recovering and the marshals recovering, so that was a very freaky accident. And I think that from watching it live, my first thought was somebody died. Someone did not survive that.
Oh, it's because she went head first into that barrier. I mean, the car,
she was airborne at 170 miles an hour.
Exactly. And I don't mean like head on, like from the front. I mean head on, like from the top. It smacked that wall.
Helmet side first into, effectively a metal crash barrier. That
was just astonishing. I mean, when I saw that, I seriously I'm 100% with you. I saw it and I just thought there's no way that person's walking away from that. They're either paralyzed or they are dead. I mean, the fact that she was able to come back, it almost makes the 11-hour surgery seem like more of a miracle.
Right. Well, and it was a little bit longer than they needed it to be because they went slow as to make sure that they didn't, inflame any spinal cord damage or anything like that. But they didn't find any spinal cord damage. She didn't have any memory loss. She remembers the entire accident, which might not be a good thing. She might not want to remember that accident. But, I mean, it's a great sign, though, health-wise.
She did put out that press release that talked about how appreciative she was of the fans and all of that other good stuff, but also talking about how she wanted to get back into a car as soon as she could. And I was very surprised to hear that.
It's funny, the resiliency of racing drivers. They get knocked down, and the first thing they want to do is be back in the car. Do you remember reading about Billy Monger at all?
I do.
I was so blown away by his resiliency because it was like, I think it was 16 hours after they had brought him out of his medically induced coma and said, hey, you don't have legs anymore. And he was already sitting up in his hospital bed with like a steering wheel in his hands, learning how to work hand controls so he could get back in a car as fast as possible. And, that coming from someone who at the time was, I think he was like 17 or 18 as well. Like, it's incredible. And, it just shows that their true passion lies in driving. And they're gonna do it until they physically cannot anymore.
And who was it? I'm trying to remember. It was Alonso. What is his last name? But something very similar. He was a Formula One driver, and just the way that his accident happened, you could actually see in the photos bits of his legs. I'm not going to link that on boostboostbbq.com because I don't want to relive those photos again. But he did a very similar.
That's the one where the front of the nose of the car got torn off and his legs were just dangling out of the front of the car?
Yes. Yeah, and he lost his legs, and it was incredible to see him get right back into a car. It wasn't a Formula One car, but he went straight into a touring car, and all he really needed was just a hand clutch because he still, used his left leg with a prosthetic for the brake and his right leg with a prosthetic for the gas, and then a hydraulic clutch that was hand operated, and just seeing that, like you said, resiliency. That's a perfect word for it. That fortitude that comes from inside, where this is what they do. They're a race car driver, and that's just the way that they're going to live their life. And I greatly appreciate that drive and that motivation.
Oh yeah, no, it's incredible to watch someone go through an accident of that magnitude and just be like, yeah, I want to go right back at it. Like, I feel like that would make me somewhat gun shy about getting back in a car. Like I'd be like Ricky Bobby, can't go more than 20 miles an hour without thinking you're on fire. I feel like that would be me after a large accident like that. But to 170 miles an hour into a steel wall basically, and she's like, yeah, no, I'll do that again. I'll go back out there.
Yeah, but during the tumble, she may have been screaming, "Help me, Oprah! Help me, Tom Cruise!"
she may have been, yeah.
Well, hey, I love everything that Dakota's doing. Why don't you go ahead and give us a plug of where we can find your stuff?
Yeah, so like I first mentioned, the website is www.timeattackhack.com.
And that will be linked underneath of this
username
episode.
On Instagram as well.
Love it.
And then me personally, you can find me on Instagram at Daxahoy, D-A-K-S, ahoy.
Make sure you're going and checking that out. Dakota has a lot of really cool stuff that he puts up, and we always appreciate hearing from him. Dakota, thank you, my friend, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, he used some perfect words for that, the resiliency of the racer's spirit. I mean, it's just so impressive that a person could go through that. It's very surprising to me. I would like to think that I would have that kind of fortitude, but I don't know. After an accident like that, that is one of those things that it might just take too much out of me. All right, we got time for one more caller. Let me see here. Caller, you are on the air.
Hey, Andy, what's going on? It's Kevin from Winter Haven, Florida.
Ah, Kevin from Barbecue Beat. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
We're just doing a call-in show, having a good time and hanging out, and it's been a real cavalcade of all of my friends calling in, which I greatly appreciate. How are things in your neck of the woods? Are you recovering from the World Food Championships?
Yeah, truth be told, it took about a week to get back sort of in the swing of things. That was a wild and crazy time, but I think we all got a lot out of it. We, you and I and Corey managed finally, kind of meet up face to face. I think that was an experience for both you guys and myself with other people we knew sort of online only. We got to meet, quote unquote, IRL, as the kids say, right?
And you said something really interesting to me that really resonated. You talked about how we form these bonds through the podcast and through the show and through the internet because we talk quite often and we help promote each other's shows and things, but then meeting each other in real life, it seemed like a lot of that just carried right on over, and I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, I think when people are genuinely involved in things that they love and are interested in, and then they're sharing those things with people who are also interested in those things. I'm saying things a lot, but you get the point. It's one of those naturally occurring sort of evolutions, if you will. I think it makes it much more seamless to go from distanced relationships to face-to-face relationships in that regard, because you're coming from this sort of wellspring of commonality.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. You know, I just had a phone call, just a quick 5-minute interaction with Stephen Powell from Ugly Drum Smokers, Texas. It's the same way with him. I know that at some point I'm going to meet him, and it's just going to be like old friends, because he's very sincere. How he is online is how he is in person, and both of them are good people. And that's exactly what we experienced with you, and I appreciate that, my friend.
Yeah, no, it was a great pleasure to meet you and Corey. Corey just cracks me up. She is I've never had someone push cups full of whiskey in my face quite as often as Corey, and God bless her. I know there were times when I said no thanks, but the few times where I was down and ready for it, it was a welcome presence in my life.
I don't know if I should say I'm sorry or you're welcome.
I think it's more you're welcome. Yeah.
She has been freaking out people this week because she got her hair straightened at a hair appointment, and getting a little color put in, but had it straightened. And anyone who hasn't seen the photos yet, my wife has incredibly curly hair, which I love, but she does straighten it once in a while, and it really takes people back. So if you could see her right now, I have a feeling that you'd be very caught off guard, Kevin.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, how can I get you have to send me over a pic of the new do.
Oh yeah, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked, and I need to get a picture of it now because it's going to be gone tomorrow.
Well, and I would imagine the minute you guys experience anything akin to humidity, that will be all over.
Yes, you have a good point there. Okay, we're getting off track here. I had one very specific thing that I want to ask you about. I'm glad you called.
Okay.
I'm glad you called. Okay, so Ugly Drum Smokers. I have this new theory. I was talking to a friend on Instagram earlier today. I won't tell you who because we're looking at getting her on the show. Hopefully that's going to happen here pretty soon. But we're talking about barrel smokers, ugly drum smokers, right? And we were talking about how efficient they are and how well they hold in the heat, although they are built of the same thickness steel as an offset smoker. They just seem to be much, much more efficient and hold the temperature much better. And my theory is that it's a vertical cook chamber instead of a horizontal cook chamber as an offset is. And so you don't have as much of the air and temperature trying to go across the food. It's rather just traveling the natural path, which is up. What are your thoughts about the efficiency of an ugly drum smoker versus an offset?
Yeah, I think what you're saying makes some sense as far as the verticality of, heat wants to rise. I mean, that's pretty, I think, commonly agreed upon. But one of the things that I would throw into the mix is that the ability to hold temp is only reduced in cases where you have not necessarily cold temperatures, but high wind temperatures. I think similar to what people experience if they're using a Weber Smoky Mountain or other kind of bullet style smoker. I know my brother in Colorado Springs has this problem. He had to build a little kind of wooden smokehouse for his WSM to sit inside because that wind will just literally suck the heat right out of it on you and make it really difficult to achieve and maintain temperatures in that regard. So I think you're right. As long as you're not dealing with any kind of high wind situation, I think maybe an offset smoker might not suffer that sort of wind variance issue as much because of kind of how and where the heat is being generated and brought through the smoke chamber itself.
Interesting. Okay. Because I know that like Stephen Powell himself, he likes to use the high risers on the intakes because he feels like there's a lot less wind manipulation, you might say, on the air coming in, because the long intake tubes allow that turbulence of the air to really figure itself out. Is it going down? Is it coming out? Like, what is it doing? And so those long tubes give that air a chance to warm up a little bit, lose its turbulence, and figure out where exactly it's going in the drum and how much it's feeding and that sort of thing. So that's a good point. You bring up a good point there, my friend.
Yeah, I think it's just, all I'm talking about is like almost like and I don't know what the scientific term is, if it's kind of like I want to say maybe like some sort of evaporative, effect, if you will, but like the heat generated on the outside of the drum itself, as the wind kicks around, it's not so much entering into and affecting it internally. It's just it's really pulling the heat out of the drum as it passes by the drum, if that makes sense.
No, totally it does. And you know what? That's a really good point. So basically, any of us that live above the 45th parallel, I would highly recommend you go to Harbor Freight and get one of those welding blankets and just wrap that around your smoker wherever it is that you're using it.
Yeah, that, or construct a very simple, like my brother did, simple sort of smokehouse design. I mean, it was very basic, looks good, but it's cheap and easy to put together, and that way you can have a little bit of if you're concerned about a stylistic element on the back porch.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Less pallet coffee tables and more pallet windbreaks for the smokers. I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing. Kevin, remind us where we can all find you.
The Barbecue Beat podcast with myself, Kevin Sandridge. You can find show notes and other information at bbqbeat.com is the main website, and that handle at BBQ Beat works most everywhere on social media except for Facebook. It would be at the BBQ Beat.
And of course, we'll have all of those links underneath this episode on boostboostbbq.com. Kevin, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for calling in, my friend. This has been our first call-in show, and it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate you being a part of it, so thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, there he goes. Love that guy, Kevin Sandridge. Super great. Facebook.com/barbecuebeat, and then everywhere else is at Barbecue Beat. The website's barbecuebeat.com. Make sure you're going checking him out. He's doing really great stuff. We need more people like that in the barbecue realm, in the food realm. He's doing really good things. So please make sure you're going out and supporting him. And man, please make sure you're going out and supporting everybody that we've talked to tonight. This has been absolutely incredible, and I really, really appreciate all of these folks calling in. It's been a lot of my friends, and man, I'm blown away. I didn't know how this call-in show was going to go. We've had a lot of really incredible call-ins. I really appreciate that, and I want everybody to know how much I appreciate that. So thank you so much for being part of this show and supporting it. We thank you for that, and we rely on you guys. So thank you so much. Make sure you're going out and checking out the Teespring store, teespring.com/store/boost-booze-bbq. I didn't have to throw the dashes in there. You guys are smart. You figure it out. We've got tons of shirts. We gave away loads of the Thank You for Smoking shirts at the World Food Championships. I'm sure I'll be seeing lots of photos of those. If you are a car person, we have a shirt that is for you. 100% of the proceeds are going to the Semper Fi Fund to support combat vets and their families. It's very important to us, and it should be very important to you guys. We've got a shirt that says USDM. I love that shirt, making sure that everybody knows where you were made and where you come from. So go and check that shirt out. And all the other shirts, of course, are available. The Thank You for Smoking, the Making That Bacon, all of the great shirts that I know you guys love to see from our lineup. While you're out there looking at those shirts, make sure you swing by and check out boostboostbbq.com. The sister show I do with Corey Ann, Pardon My Fork, at boostboostbbq/pardonmyfork, facebook.com/pardonmyfork. We are getting that ramped up, having a ton of fun, making some really great episodes and talking to some really incredible people. Make sure that you are going and checking that out, because man, if you have any love of food or food sport, if you like to watch Chopped or Iron Chef or anything like that, we're talking to them all, man. We've got them all on the show. So make sure that you are going and checking that out. Please give that a little bit of love and support. Facebook.com/PardonMyFork. Again, thank you so much for listening. So for everyone that has called in today, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.